First and foremost, I would like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'asham, Yahweh Shai, Ba'asham, Ruach HaKodesh, and double honor to the apostle. That was a great millstone. Today we're going to be continuing with the book of Isaiah, so we can jump right into it. Isaiah chapter 4. A remnant prepared. Isaiah chapter 4 verse 1. And in that day 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name, to take away our reproach. Right? So Isaiah here, he's pretty much continuing on speaking of the calamity of that day. When the Lord brings his destruction and all the judgment is going to be going on. So he says what? And in that day 7 women shall take hold of one man. And 7 just being the number of completion, because it could be more or less, but it's really just going to stress how bad it will be. You have 7 women willing to take hold of one man, and you know how women are here today in America. First off, for them to even want a man, well, he has to make this much, know how to do this, take me out on these many days, all the requirements that these women have. But in this day, they're not even going to care. As long as he only let us be called by thy name, right? So as long as he takes them under, under him, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. So we will provide everything else for ourselves. Just let us be called by thy name. Just let us, and that's for that safety, because they're going to be looking for safety. We don't need a man, and what can a man do for me? All that's going out the window. All of that's going out the window. And that's why a man of the Lord is going to be highly sought after in these times, because that's really where, because the Lord said he's going to be with his men, to protect them throughout these times. Scripture coming into mind, Isaiah 65:13. Grab that real quick. We start at verse 12. Therefore will I remember you to the sword, and ye shall all bow down to the slaughter, because when I called, ye did not answer, when I spake, ye did not hear, but did evil before mine eyes, and did choose that wherein I delighted not. Therefore thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, my servant shall eat, but ye shall be hungry. Behold, my servant shall drink, but ye shall be thirsty. Behold, my servant shall rejoice, but ye shall be ashamed. Behold, my servant shall sing for joy of heart, but you shall cry for sorrow of heart, and shall howl for vexation of spirit. So the servants of the Lord are going to be well off in that day, in those times of trouble. And that's why you're going to be having women trying to come under them, for that safety. So going back, verse 2. In that day shall the branch of the Lord Yahweh be beautiful and glorious, and the fruit of the earth shall be excellent and comely for them that are escaped of Israel. Now it says, in that day shall the branch of the Lord Yahweh, Ba'asham Yahweh Shai, be beautiful and glorious. Right? And this branch, what is that branch being the Lord's elect of the nation of Israel? Because he said that he would make them beautiful. So let's get over here in Psalms 49 verse 4. For the Lord Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh Shai taketh pleasure in his people. He will beautify the meek with salvation. And he's going to start that with the elect. It's going to start with the elect. And in that day shall the branch of the Lord Yahweh be beautiful and glorious, and the fruit of the earth shall be excellent and comely for them that are escaped of Israel. right? So them that are escaped of Israel, once again going into his elect, they escaped the judgment of the Lord because he preserved them through it. He delivered them through it. And it says, and the fruit of the earth shall be excellent and calmly for them, right? And it's pretty much going back to how when the Lord said, a curse that the Lord said, and how the land would no more yield fruit, Deuteronomy 11. This is basically the reverse or the opposite of that curse, a blessing for his elect. The earth shall be excellent and calmly for them, and the fruit of the earth shall be excellent and calmly for them. And it shall come to pass that he that is left in Zion and he that remaineth in Jerusalem shall be called holy, even every one that is written among the living in Jerusalem. So it says, and it shall come to pass that he that is left in Zion and he that remaineth in Jerusalem. Once again, this being that remnant. And you see, that's why that's the title of this chapter, Remnant Prepared. So once again, those being that remnant, those who the Lord had afore prepared to be preserved. Going back to Romans 9:23. We start at verse 22. What if the Most High, willing to shew his wrath and to make his power known, endured with much long suffering the vessels of wrath fitted for destruction, going into Esau, and that he might make known the riches of his glory on the vessels of mercy, going into Israel, which he had afore prepared unto glory, right? Which is really going to the elect of Israel, that he afore prepared unto glory. So the Lord been knew who his elect were going to be before any of this. We don't know though. Well, that's why scriptures say to give diligence to make your calling and election sure. I believe that's 2 Peter. Right, 2 Peter 1:10. Wherefore the rather, brethren, give diligence to make your calling and election sure. For if you do these things, ye shall never fall. Right, so that's why we do the things we do, put forth our works, put forth our faith, and to please the Lord, to make our calling and election sure. We're going back to Isaiah. And it shall come to pass that he that is left in Zion and he that remaineth in Jerusalem shall be called holy. All right, and because they will be made completely holy, in body and in spirit. Even everyone that is written among the living in Jerusalem. Right, and going into those whose names are written in that book of life, to be preserved through the judgment. So go to Revelations chapter 3, start here verse 4. Thou hast a few names even in Sardis, which have not defiled their garments, and they shall walk with me in white, for they are worthy. He that overcometh, the same shall be clothed in white raiment, and I will not blot out his names out of the book of life. And this is, the Lord Yahweh Shai speaking, I believe. And I will not blot out his name out of the book of life, but I will confess his name before my Father and before his angels. Right, so being written in that book of life. That's what it's talking about here. Even everyone that is written among the living in Jerusalem. But that's, for those who are written in that book of life. What about for those who aren't? Going back to Revelations chapter 20, start at verse 14. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. Now it says in death, and people read this, a place of hell. How can hell, if it's an actual physical place, be cast into the lake of fire? That doesn't even make sense. Isn't hell supposed to be a lake of fire itself? So that, that's out the way. So it says, and death and hell were cast into the lake of fire, right? And this is going into what that power of death, the power of hell, the grave. They were cast into the lake of fire. But this is only for Israel, because we were going to be made immortal. So pretty much as it's talked about in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, Israel were going to have that victory over death. And we're going to have that victory over death because we're going to be made immortal, starting with the Lord's elect. Lord willing, we be of that number. But yeah, we won't, we're going to be given new bodies. We won't die anymore. So that's why it says death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. That being able to die, died, but only for the Israelites. And this second death was going into that lake of fire. The first death was what? The great flood, by what? By way of water. The second death is going to be, the nuclear missiles met, the lasers from the chariots, that huge lake of fire, mainly being America, that's going to be that great second death. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life, right? So the opposite of those written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. Right? So for those who aren't written in the book of life, pretty much death awaits you. You're going to be cast into that lake of fire. You're going to be on this earth when those nuclear missiles hit. And the lasers from the chariots, the Lord's chariots rain down. But we strive to be, written in that book of life. As we just read, give diligence to make your calling and election sure. So on to verse 4. One more thing though, notice how it says, even everyone that is written among the living in Jerusalem, right? That lets you know what? Salvation is only for, the elect of Israel. It is the other nations don't have a way out. Because the Lord was only dealing with Israel. He gave them the covenant, not any other nations. When the Lord shall have washed away the filth of the daughters of Zion, and shall have purged the blood of Jerusalem from the midst thereof by the spirit of judgment and by the spirit of burning. So, this is a continuation. You see the colon there, right? So it says, this stuff, and it shall come to pass that he that is left in Zion and he that remaineth in Jerusalem shall be called holy, even everyone that is written among the living in Jerusalem. That's going to happen when what? When the Lord shall have washed away the filth of the daughters of Zion, and shall have purged the blood of Jerusalem from the midst thereof by the spirit of judgment and by the spirit of burning. Now it says, when the Lord shall have washed away the filth of the daughters of Zion, what? He's going to destroy the wicked out of the nation in order to what? To wash it. And shall have purged the blood of Jerusalem from the midst thereof by the spirit of judgment and by the spirit of burning. So he's going to cleanse the bloodshed of Israel with what? The blood of the wicked Israelites by way of, destroying them with what? The spirit of judgment, his judgment, and the spirit of burning. Once again, going into that second death, the nuclear missiles, the laser from the chariots. But why? Because what? We know that, the bloodshed can only be cleansed by that of the blood which shed it. And I forget which one that is. Let's see. Or by that which it was shed. Okay, we're just gonna do bloodshed. Yahuwah Hashem Shai is right here. Numbers 35 and 33. So you shall not pollute the land wherein ye are, for blood it defileth the land, and the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it. Right, so going back, the Lord is going to destroy the wicked of Jerusalem, by way of judgment and that second death, for their blood to cleanse the blood of Israel. That stain that they left, it has to be cleansed by the blood of those who caused it. Ultimately the Lord's going to cleanse Israel, but really the entire world, because once again only the elect of Israel are making it out of this judgment, going to be preserved through this judgment. So Esau, the other nations, their blood is going to be shed too, in order to cleanse the rest of the world. And what the Lord is doing, by washing away the filth of the daughters of Zion, is what he's making Israel great again. You got Trump saying, "Oh, I make America great again" and whatnot. No, the Lord's coming back to make Israel great again, and really to make them greater than ever before. So verse 5, and the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai will create upon every dwelling place of Mount Zion, and upon her assemblies, a cloud and smoke by day, and the shining of a flaming fire by night, for upon all the glory shall be a defense. And I believe, the glory going in the kingdom of heaven. So it says, and the Lord Yahweh will create upon every dwelling place of Mount Zion, so all the dwelling places of Israel, and upon her assemblies, right? So wherever there's a congregation of, Israelites, a cloud and smoke by day, and the shining of a flaming fire by night, for upon all the glory shall be a defense. Now this cloud and smoke by day and shining of a flaming fire by night, this is going into what? The Lord's chariots. For upon all the glory shall be a defense. They're going to be what? Flying about and, just there at the, the dwelling places of Israelites in the kingdom as a defense, even though we're not going to need it, but they're going to be there, and you can imagine that. It's night, you see the lights and the chariots just flying across the sky and stuff. This is going to be beautiful, man. And there shall be a tabernacle for a shadow in the daytime from the heat, and for a place of refuge, and for a covert from storm and from rain. Now you can look at this literally, and say, yeah, there's going to be a tabernacle for a shadow in the daytime from the heat, a place of refuge, and for covered storm and from the rain, a place to go where it's raining. But what is really trying to convey is that thought, or that message of not worrying, always having comfort, always having a place to go if something's happening, always having that shelter, always having that safety. We're not going to have to worry about that, because we're always going to have, what we need and more. So that's what it's really conveying. If it's raining, you're not going to have to worry about if you have some place to go and hide from the rain. No, you're going to have some. If it's hot outside, you're not going to have to worry about if there's a tabernacle for you to go and get some shade. No, you're not going to have to worry about that. So it's really trying to convey that message of not worrying, not needing. Because, the kingdom of heaven, the Lord, his promises were great, man. That's why you can't do anything but thank Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. So yeah, that's the end of it. So here, chapter 4, Isaiah, he starts off speaking on the calamity and how bad it was be by, emphasizing that 7 women shall take hold of one man, how women are going to be trying to gravitate to just one man, even just one man for that safety, emphasizing the how bad it's going to get. But then he transitions, into how the Lord's elect were made beautiful and glorious, how they will be made holy, but only after, the Lord has washed away, destroyed the wicked out of the land, cleansed Israel. And then it goes into how in the kingdom of heaven, you're going to have chariots, as a defense, guarding pretty much Israel, and they're the houses, their dwelling places, and then how we're not going to have to worry anymore. So with that being said, once more, I would like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'asham, Yahushai, Ba'asham, Ruach HaKodesh, and double honor to the apostle and those in Great Millstone. And Shalom to the hopeful elect.